Greetings, greetings, greetings. It's been a long time since I've been on Instagram, so I just kind of want to make this brief. I don't want to stay too long, but it's early morning and I was in the process of writing, doing my morning writing devotion. I like to write when I first wake up this morning. But as I was laying in the bed, I saw an image, right? Of a person that has passed away, might be like 30 years ago. Yeah, about 25, 30 years ago. And this particular young woman lived above me. And in my image, I saw her pass by me, just straight, just walk across me. And since I always have had visions of people who have passed on all my life, didn't understand what to do with this gift. And my mother used to hate when I used to tell her of a dream. You know, my grandmother coming to me, my aunts, she used to hate it. She didn't understand it. So she used to be like, what now? Because she felt like I was the bearer of bad news. But sometimes, they were warnings. And one of them was my grandmother had came to me in a dream. And what I got from the dream was she was concerned about one of her daughters, right? And so I told my mom. So my mother was telling me that that particular sister was very stressed because she was taking care of her son's children and she was just tired. But what she didn't know is that she was very sick. So when she actually went and got checked, her blood pressure checked when she was in like a mall. You know, you have these big shopping malls in America. And so she was in there and somebody was given a blood pressure reading and she took one and they immediately put her in the hospital. So when they put her on the medication, she wouldn't take it. She refused to take it. But she also refused to change her diet. And as a result, she had a stroke and she's been in a wheelchair ever since. So that was one of the most profound visions I had received that really showed itself to be very clear. So in this vision, I saw this young woman named Stephanie. And certain things just came to my spirit after I saw her pass before me as I lay in the bed. Because I'm like, why is Stephanie coming up in my thoughts? So I felt like, instead of writing, Stephanie wants to talk. And what I'm saying is that the spirit wants to speak about Stephanie. So I'm going to just be obedient because this was definitely not in the plan, but a lot of things came to me as I thought about Stephanie. And I thought I'd share with you some of the things that came to me. Now, Stephanie was a tall, slim, like how a particular ethnic group in Africa, tall and slim in East Africa, I'm seeing that. And she was dark, very dark, dark like the color of her hair, very black, right? That color. And knock kneed. So her legs used to just curve in. She had it really severe. And Stephanie was good at double dutch. She used to jump double dutch with us. That's something that we used to do. The children used to do all kind of very creative things in the inner city in New York City. Young children, right? And Stephanie was one of them. She could run fast. She could jump. She could play ball. She was very athletic. There was nothing that she would not try to do. But Stephanie was also challenged a lot because of the way she looked, because of her dark skin. She spent most of her childhood fighting, always fighting to defend herself because people picked on her just because she was dark, just because of the way she looked. Her own people, right? So many things came to me as I remembered Stephanie. But later on, Stephanie got into drugs, using drugs. She came from a family of where everyone was dark-skinned. She had a brother named Norman. He was the most kindest young man. I'm left with a warm feeling about Norman. And she had a aunt named Rhonda. She was so sweet and loving, dark, broad lips, big eyes, dark skin, just beautiful. She passed away about a year ago, so maybe all of that. And I really looked up to her because of her beauty, her smile, her radiance, her warmth, right? Rhonda. And so Stephanie was always fighting because people picked on her. But then I went from Stephanie in my thoughts to a young lady named Lenore that I met through a friend of mine's. She had a cousin named Lenore who had just came up from Trinidad. Yeah, she was from Trinidad. Actually, she was from Barbados. Yeah, she was from Barbados. A young lady named Lenore. Now, Lenore had a broad smile, dark skin, very short hair, but a beautiful, broad smile. I mean, when she smiled, oh my God, but she didn't smile often. Why didn't Lenore smile often? Because Lenore spent the majority of her days fighting children that hated her for how she looked, that picked on her and called her black and ugly and all kind of monkeys. And yeah, they taunted Lenore. They taunted Stephanie. So I thought about Lenore not too long ago because I said, with all of that fighting, I mean, she would walk home from school fighting children off of her every day. It's like they wanted her to one day give up. The spirit, the negative spirit that was in these children, that was a taught behavior. I was a young child too, and I looked and I was not understanding what this was, right? Being dark and short hair as well, and broad lips and smile, and being unseen. I was able to look upon things and try to understand, and just was confused. Why did they hate them so much? The darker you were, the worse you got it. Yeah, it was so obvious. And I was the next level, right? And then the lighter, the more, it's this crazy, the hierarchy in how you were treated based on your hair texture, your skin complexion, your African features. Yeah. And some people are still carrying the bruises of that treatment to this day. So I went from Lenore, because I thought about Lenore, you know, she's been on my mind. And I have not seen Lenore since I was a child. Can you imagine? Because I remembered what she went through and why some people to this day cannot stand American people. I'm sorry, I said it. Why some people cannot stand American people and they do not trust American people. I do not say they do not trust us because they trust me. Because I don't have the same identity issues and I see them. When I see them, I see myself. And because of that, there is an energy exchange between me and my brothers and sisters where there's not that, you know. But when I was younger, they used to ask me where I was from. And when I would say America, they would go, oh. But then after a while, they got to know me and it was like we were family. So while I was laying there, I thought about Vanessa. Because, oh, let me go back to Stephanie, the original young lady I came on this recording to talk about. Stephanie also went on to using drugs. And then she spent the majority of her life trying to repair her life, get clean. And she finally did. And she moved out of the neighborhood to make sure that she would not relapse. And so she went, got her own place out of the neighborhood, was getting her life together. And then a fire broke out in the home that she was living in, and she did not survive. But she spent the majority of her life feeling hated, feeling unseen and unloved by the world, right? You imagine that? She spent the majority of her life. And then when she just got tired of it all, she ended up taking up drugs. And she spent the rest of her life fighting that drug demon. And then she ended up losing her life because of a fire. So then my mind went on further this morning and I thought about Vanessa. Vanessa was a brown-skinned, stocky built young girl, right? With thick, thick, thick glasses. I mean, you could barely see her eyes through these glasses. And Vanessa spent the majority of her life fighting. She stayed fighting off people, beating on her, couldn't stand her because of her glasses, couldn't stand her because of her complexion. Big, broad smile, chocolate, beautiful young girl. I'm telling you, thick glasses. And they used to love to knock off her glasses when she fought, so she couldn't see. But you know what? Vanessa was a tyrant. She was kicking butt. You hear me? Vanessa could fight. You hear me? And she had these bubbles in her hair and these long, long twists. Her mother used to put her hair like that and put clips. She always had her hair done so pretty. Vanessa. Well, Vanessa went on to using drugs. She got tired of fighting, trying to understand why the young people couldn't stand her, why they hated her, right? She got tired. And so she ended up using drugs. Yeah, she did. She ended up using drugs and she became a prostitute. Selling her body for sex, selling her body for money. Selling her body for money. Yeah, she sold her body for money. Young woman just lost, and I wonder what happened to her. I never got to find out what happened to her. Last time I saw her, she was still selling her body. And I'm going to tell you about Gail. Gail was a beautiful, dark-skinned, a little knock-kneed, yeah, long legs. She could run. You could not outrun Gail. And she had these really tiny eyes, right? Tiny eyes, almost like Asian eyes. And she was just, oh my God, a runner. She had long legs. Like most of us love to run. We ran a lot. Gail was older than me, but she was a runner. She was dark skinned too. And Gail spent most of her time fighting kids that couldn't stand her because of the way she looked, because of her complexion. You imagine that? Gail, big, broad lips, beautiful skin and face, features. Yeah, our people looking like us. So Gail later on graduated to using drugs. Gail. Someone bashed her head in with a bat. So she left too soon, too early. I know I have talked about the young men in the community that died tragically. A lot of them was during the drug era, but they grew up closely before, they played closely before, like brothers, but I'm talking about the young women that didn't make it as well. And most of them that did not make it were the ones make it, which I'm talking about survive the community and the tragedy in the community we grew up in is because of identity, because of self-hate within the Black community that people don't want to talk about and act like it does not exist when it really truly does. Yeah, it does. I, for one, was blessed that mommy taught me who I was at a young age and helped me be okay with that. There was a time that I remember looking at my hair when I was brushing my hair. And I was looking in the back when I was a kid and I'm brushing it up, and I'm seeing my kinks, as they call them, naps. And they call them different names, different countries. And I remember feeling like, oh my God, the kids are gonna pick on me. Not that I wasn't okay with it, but I knew the kids were going to pick on me. Like, where did they get this from? So I remember my first time I cut my hair low, I was 16. 16 years old, cut off my hair. Just went in the mirror and went at it, cut it off. And so when you can do that at a young age, it says a lot. And I had already been expressing certain things, certain things. But I know when I was a child growing up, my boyfriends didn't really want, I say my boyfriends because I had a little boyfriend when I was 6. He used to share his snacks with me until I was 13. And we broke up because he wanted to explore his body with girls. And I was not ready for that. He said, the girls are looking at me. They're noticing me. This is what he said. But this boy looked like me. But when the girls were looking at him, like the ones that he was not as popular with before, he went on with that girl, and he later on became married to someone that looks nothing like me. And then the boy who, the young man who did get to be with me, take my virginity as a young man. The girl that he ended up with when he cheated and left me, she looked nothing like me. She was totally opposite. And the woman he married looks totally opposite from me and his mother. His mother was dark-skinned with very short hair and big eyes, wide smile, African face. His wives and girlfriends look nothing like his mother. Now, okay, you may say that's just how it is, and it's identity issues that our people have in America. And maybe, you could speak for your country and say, oh, it's like that here. Well, I'm talking about what I know and what I've seen. And it is still there. And it will always be here. I mean, Chris Rock did a documentary about our hair and how much money we spend on hair and where our hair comes from. And people were mad at him, like, how dare you? But he was also trying to educate us as to where the bulk of our money goes to. It does not go back to our community. The money we spend in the beauty supply does not go, not a red cent, not a dime. Some people may say, well, they do have maybe 0.0001% of Black-owned products in those beauty supply stores. You think that's going to close the wealth gap in America? You think in the world? You think that little dent? These are the things that came in my spirit this morning. They're not of my own self, because you see, I don't come on Instagram to get liked. I don't come on Instagram because I want to come on Instagram, because I did have other things planned. But I was obedient enough to make this message, because when I saw the image of Stephanie go across my face, I said, you know what? I know these things have not changed in our people. And these are the things that have scarred so many of us. And these are the things that are still scarring us. I was looking at a live with Dr. Lulu, a Nigerian female doctor. I love her. When I see her, I see myself. And we do not see enough of the Dr. Lulus and the Lapitas in the forefront. And we need to talk about that, because that is Africa. That is who we are. That is who our people have been running from throughout the globe. That is who has been ostracized throughout the world, the darker one. Let's talk about it. Stop running away and acting like it does not exist, because there are some people who would have been more in the forefront and more idolized or adored or elevated had they been of a different complexion. They call it the complexion for rejection. But yeah, there are people who they feel good about themselves. They know who they are. They're okay with they are. They embrace who they are, right? People like me. So don't get it twisted. I don't desire to be who I'm not. I've always wanted to be who I am, to the point that there was some opportunity that was presented to me to do like some voice work, but they said I would need to change my voice a little bit more to sound like Becky. And even with just twisting my voice to sound a little more, whatever, that was something I couldn't do. And this is the reason why I have not been able to go forward and do it, is because I never wanted to be Becky. I've always been okay with being who I am, Regina. You understand? So I never desired. It didn't mean I had to hate Becky. No, I didn't have to hate her to love me. That's what people have to understand. Loving yourself has nothing to do with me hating another. We know where the identity thing came from, where we learned this thing, but it's time to unlearn this thing and get to the root of it. Dig it up, burn the root, destroy it, for it never to come back again. But I was listening to a live with Dr. Lulu, and she talked about a little girl came to see her because she's a pediatrician. She used to practice pediatrics, and a little girl nearly jumped out of her seat, and she said, "Mommy, she looks like me." A little girl saw herself in Dr. Lulu, little black girl. Yeah, we say black girl, so you can understand who I'm talking about. So don't be like, oh, black African. You understand what I'm talking about. So she felt so moved to see that the little girl felt like, yeah, my doctor is a black woman and she looks like me. And sometimes we get emotional when we talk about that, because we remember the times when people did not recognize us and see us. And we know there was times that we were rejected, and there were times that we were like pushed aside. Now, see, the thing that would have made me more popular in my community is that if I did things to get the love and attention from the boys, and I didn't do it. I saw the problem. I saw it. I recognized it right away. After that first boyfriend, I recognized it right away. And you know what? I moved away from the community. I totally stopped hanging around the community I grew up in, which was predominantly African American children. The identity crisis was serious. And the things they were looking for that identity in was not going to be good. Right? So some of them would say, okay, I left the neighborhood. Yeah, but your identity, where was it? Where is it? So what happened is, when I started hanging around people that looked like me, that were not from America, I really was finally seen. I was like, wow, there are people dating each other that look like each other. You imagine that? People of the same complexion, looking like me, dating each other, marrying each other, having children with each other. That was just unseen. People like to mismatch because they didn't want their children to come out too dark. You imagine that? They definitely didn't want their children to come out with African features. Now, you would say in your country, your mother is that way, your father is that way. I see bleaching cream. That floored me when I didn't just see Ambi, because I had a friend who was dark, beautiful, slim, this hair that wouldn't stop growing. And she was tall and slim, and she could run. She could run her tail off. And she used to use Ambi, which is a bleaching cream. And I saw her recently, and she was darker than me when we were children, but I saw her recently, maybe like about 4 years ago, and she's lighter than me. She used so much bleaching cream, she changed her complexion. And her husband is not, I mean, he's not African American, he's not Black. But she changed her complexion. And all of her children are light. So this identity thing is so real. She had a sister that was dark, broad lips, dark skin, short hair. They always teased her own family. They teased her. She ended up becoming a drug user. She fought drugs for the majority of her life. And she did clean it up. She did. But she is forever scarred by that hate that she received from her family. So she received it from her family. And then when she went out in the world, she was hated as well. But she could run. She was a runner. She poured out all of her anger and frustration in her running. She ran. You ever see some of our sisters run? They run like they're fighting. They're fighting their hate. And you understand, you go through this hate in your community, in your home, in your family. That's there, already there. So when you go out there and you facing the fate, the hate outside of your house, you already feel defeated. It's not supposed to be that way. You're supposed to be able to embrace your children for who they are and who they look like and who God made them and created them to be. Embrace them so that they have the confidence that they're going to need when they're faced with the hate outside the door. Trust me, I was able to endure the hate that I endured outside the door because my mother never differentiated between her children. Like, ooh, this one has straighter hair, that one has lighter skin, this one has, my mother never did that. My mother never did that. She embraced us all on the same level. And then the African identity of recognizing who we was there. The foundation was laid at a very young age. We saw images of ourselves on the wall, on the TV, wherever, books. It was all around us. So that when we went out into the world, we had a confidence that was just easy and cool. It wasn't like I have to really fake confidence where you don't really feel good about yourself. There's a knowing that you have to have, a knowing. You understand? Knowing who you are, your identity, embracing who you are. Because some of us are just playing a part. And we know we're not seen. We have to either be smart, we have to be promiscuous, we have to be wearing long weaves, we have to be wearing long nails, we have to be wearing high heels. These are all of the things that people do to be accepted and seen, because many people won't see them unless they're flinging around something that's artificial, that doesn't even belong to their body, or whether they're tapping their fingers with something that doesn't belong to them, or they're walking around clunkety clunk in a heel that is killing their feet. The things that they do to be seen, and the tons of makeup they wear on their skin to be seen. So I'm just saying, that's what came in my spirit this morning. I'm not here to judge. My wish and hope is that we get more conscious about what we do unconsciously, that we understand and check ourselves when we find ourselves looking at our brothers and sisters, our children, with disdain because of their features and their skin. And that those who look like me, the darker one, the Lapitas of the world, the Indie Iries, of the world, that they can embrace themselves. You understand? So that they don't have to feel like they need to be exotic, that they need to change themselves, that they need to do something to try to be more accepted in mainstream, to be more seen, because it is not you that has the problem. Like, it's not me, it is you. And you must get to the core of where that came from. Why the darker one is despised all over the world. The child in the family who is the darkest is usually the one most ridiculed. Now, I remember meeting this woman who, she was very light, like a milky white, light-skinned woman, Black woman. And I couldn't believe she opened her mouth and said this to me. And she said that all of the darker children in her family were the most stupidest. They were the dumbest. And I said, wow, you imagine y'all looked at your people in your family that was darker as dumb? Yeah, they were just all dumb, she said. They just was dumb. So I said something to her to kind of waken her up, to let her understand that you may feel that you had a privileged life because of the way you look. But the things that was expected of you because of the way you looked, what a price you had to pay. Having to prove who you are through your sexuality. I saw what the younger girls went through that were lighter, and it wasn't pretty. So there is no privilege on either side. But one thing I will say is that the Beyoncés of the world will always get through the door before the Kelly Rowlands. And we need to look at that, because we think, this sister that's getting elevated is just, because she's a Black woman. She paid a price. And she wore all her artificials to get in the door and to stay in the door. If she decides to fully embrace the kink and the color that she truly possesses people love her, they idolize her, and, ain't disputing her talent. But I am just saying that we know certain things are so obviously in front of us that we just don't want to talk about, because people come at you. And it's not nobody outside of the community, it's within. There was a Nigerian pastor that had a sermon that said, the enemy is within. It's not outside, it's within. And it was a very profound message. It's something that I actually want to find it and look at it again. If I find it, I will share it, because it was so real about the things the problems we have within. And it's like, if you're not going to talk about these things while you're still alive, like in this time, and put them out there, they will never be any light shed on those things. They will never, the things that are in the dark, the light will never be able to destroy them and put them into submission. You have to be able to talk about it, find out why is that way. I remember my good friend, when I was 13 years old, me and her was really tight. She was from Peru, and she was light complexion, and she had all of this wavy, thick, long hair. I mean, the kids used to love to just play in her hair just because it was long and thick, and they loved her hair. And the boys loved her complexion, and they loved her hair. Oh my God. And I remember one day she showed me a picture of her family. I never forget. I know, I met her mom and her dad and her sisters and brothers. They used to always, her other sisters and brothers, two of her sisters, I believe, used to use perms, black woman perms, to straighten her hair. But anyway, her hair was on the wavy, was in the middle. So she didn't use any perm. She was proud and all of that. But I remember she showed me a picture of her extended family. And there was a black woman sitting in a wheelchair over on the side, on the very side, on the edge of the picture. And she said, "That is my grandmother. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody." And I was like, wow. Wow. Never forgot. Never told nobody, because what was the point? She didn't want to even embrace the black in her. She didn't want to embrace the African in her. She was not okay with it, which meant she had her own identity crisis. So you're not rejecting that old woman over there. You rejecting who you are as well. That's what you don't understand. So that's why I'm saying these are things that need to be talked about, because this is about self-love. This is about identity. This is the thing that destroying our people. This is the thing that is dividing our people. This is the thing that is conquering us before we even go out into the world. We're already conquered in our neighborhoods, in our homes. That is not supposed to happen. That needs to stop. It is destroying. Even the grown woman is still messed up like that. Some of us refuse to ever show our roots. They can't change their nose or their lips. They're not going to do that surgery, but they will change their hair, and they refuse, even to the day they die. When you go in the coffin, you don't even want to go to your maker without a wig. When you go see God, you want to go as the way you were born, accepting and loving yourself. Don't go to God saying, listen, I never embraced myself. That's what you're basically presenting to God when you go in the ground, or wherever way you go with this a wig on your hair. You show God immediately, I never loved myself. I never embraced myself, because the world never embraced me. Well, I'll say today, right now, that God made you perfect and whole, and that you must love yourself entirely right now. Embrace yourself now first. So time has escaped me. It's 8:14 a.m. I have to go for a walk. I got to get it in. So I like to get it in early, so I don't decide I don't do it. All right. So you have a blessed day. I hope, you got something from this message. If you didn't, oh well, but it was no pun intended. It was to enlighten you and make you see the things that are destroying our people and is misleading us every day. Our men are looking for certain things. They're not looking deeper. Our women are trying to present certain things to the man because they don't feel like the man will accept them. People are changing themselves every second of the day because they're afraid that they won't receive the love and attention. They'll be ostracized. There are little girls who are changing themselves, asking their parents, oh God, can I get this and that, because they know their mothers and fathers or whoever will not love them, or who don't love themselves. So they look into their family for the identity, and they're looking out in the world for acceptance. Is something that has to stop, because the only way that you're going to be able to, and you got to look beyond the outside, because this is the thing. You got brothers and sisters all over the world who we don't all look the same. Nevertheless, we're brothers and sisters. So when you get this right, then you can feel the spirit of a man. When you get all of this right, this acceptance, you can feel and sense the good from the soul level. But you got to get past all of this nonsense you have in your head about what you see, right? and what you see in yourselves and what you see in others, you got to be able to go deeper. You got to be able to go deeper. Self-acceptance, self-love. It starts with self. It starts with self. Regardless, I know the damage you feel like it's been done, but it can be undone. Learn more about yourself. Learn more about yourself. Look up to, find role models that look like you, if that's what it's going to take for you to embrace yourself. And make sure they look more like you, like they really accept themselves. Don't follow their folly either if they are still, embracing something that is not of themselves either. So that's all I wanted to share right now. And I hope you're blessed and you're encouraged and you understand the images that our young people need, and you understand the love that we need, acceptance, because it is killing our children. It is killing our people. It is dividing our people. It is conquering our people. It has to stop. Like I said, it's not of me when I come on here and I say certain things. I'm like, okay, but it's real. It's real. It is real. It is real. It is real. It is real. So God bless. I hope you're encouraged. Stay encouraged. Stay